Well, thank you for joining us. We've had a whole series of authors in today, but I'm really excited about our next guest,
Yes,
Heidi.
absolutely.
Joining us is, I always want to say on the couch, because in the studio we have a couch, but we have chairs here today. Joining us is Victoria Thompson, and Victoria, you write mystery.
That's correct. The Gaslight Mystery Series, set in turn of the century New York City. The heroine is a midwife. The hero is a police detective.
Okay. Now, you've been recognized for your mystery work. You are an Edgar-nominated author.
That's
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the Edgar Award? I know it's very large, but maybe those outside the literary community aren't as familiar.
Right. It's sort of the equivalent of the Oscar for mystery writing. And it's an adjudicated award. They read hundreds of mysteries and pick the 5 best in each of the categories. And I was nominated for Best Paperback Original for 2001 for the second book in the Gaslight series.
And how many books do you have in that series
We
now?
have 15 books in that series
15.
now. 15 came out last month in May of 2013.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank
That
you.
is wonderful.
So we're Seton Hill today, as our viewers know. You were originally a mentor with the Seton Hill program, is that correct?
That's right. I started in 2000, almost at the very beginning.
Wow.
And they had recruited me to be a mentor, and I was a mentor for several terms. And then they asked if we had any ideas for modules to teach, and I came up with 1 or 2 ideas. And so then I became an instructor in the program as well. And then in 2010, when we became an MFA program, I decided to go back and get my MFA through the program. So I was also a student and am now an alum. of
Now
the
you're
program
an
as well.
alum, so you've
Right.
kind of come full circle
I
with
have.
the
Right.
program here.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your favorite character in one of your books, or maybe in the entire series?
Well, since it's a series, the protagonists are the same throughout the series. And of course, Sarah is the heroine. She's a midwife, and Frank Malloy is a police detective. And I think probably he's my favorite character.
Well, you
because-
light up a little bit when you said
I
Frank's
guess,
name.
absolutely.
So
Yeah. I see.
Yeah, I think, well, everybody's in love with their heroes.
Yes, that's
the
for
ones
sure.
that they create, because we make them the way we'd like them
Right.
to be. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's Irish Catholic at a time in the 1890s when pretty much the only career an Irish Catholic man could have was in the police department in New York, and he has a handicapped son in the very beginning. Now, the police department at that time was totally corrupt, which I didn't realize when I decided to make him a policeman. And then when I did the research, I realized, oh my gosh, I have a hero that's like, not very heroic. He's a corrupt police officer, so what am I going to do with him? So I had decided I had to give him some motivation for being where he was. And he has a son he believes is mentally retarded and that will have to be taken care of long after he dies. And so he realizes the only way he can do that to ensure his son's future is to make a lot of money and take a lot of bribes and bribe his way up to be a police captain, which I believe was about $10,000 you had to accumulate to pay a bribe to get that job. And that was great because you got then not only the bribes paid directly to you, but a cut of everyone under you.
Sure.
So he would have been a wealthy man when he retired at
Right.
that. So that was his ambition in life. And then he meets Sarah Brandt and discovers his son is actually deaf instead. And so this happens very early in the series, so I'm not really giving much away.
Not giving away the mystery.
Yeah, not giving away the mystery, no. And so he, out of gratitude, decides to pay her back by solving her husband's murder. Her husband's been murdered, and so that's how they, stay together through the beginning of the series. And so then he no longer has a reason to necessarily stay at the police department, but he's pretty much stuck there. So that's why he keeps on. But he does a good job and rises above his situation.
Well, sometimes the flawed heroes are the best ones.
They are.
The most
They are. They're
interesting.
certainly the most fun to read about.
That's right.
So did you have an inspiration for Frank Malloy, or did you pull from multiple directions?
Well, I kind of think of him as a younger, handsomer Andy Sipowicz from NYPD Blue, which was very popular when I started this series. So he's that character, sort of, a little jaded, a little,
Right. Are Frank and Sarah going to get together completely?
Actually, they get together in the book that just came out, Murder in Chelsea. Frank proposes to her at the end of the book.
Wow.
And somebody said, "Does she accept?" I'm like, "Are you kidding? Am I crazy? I'm not going to say yes."
Exactly, I'm a mystery writer.
Someone said, "Yeah, she wants to concentrate on her career." I said, "I don't think so." But yes, and it's very interesting. I had written 14 books, and they weren't together, and I had created so many obstacles to them getting together that I couldn't figure out how to get them together. And I was complaining about this to my online group, my online class that semester, and one of the other students said, "Let me rise to your challenge." And he sent me 20 possible solutions.
Oh my gosh, how awesome.
Never having read a word I had written, not knowing anything about the series, and he writes science fiction as David Wilbanks.
Oh.
And so one of them was the perfect solution. And so you will see David, I named a character after him in the book, the character who actually saves the day and makes all this possible
that is
is named David
awesome.
Wilbanks.
That's wonderful.
So I owe a lot to the program.
Wow.
So they will be getting married eventually. I'm going to drag it out a little bit. The next book, they're just sort of piecing together what their lives are going to be like now that everything's changed.
Wonderful.
And then they'll eventually get married and solve a murder on their honeymoon. And
Of course.
of course.
So I was curious with all of our writers today if you're interested in different forms of storytelling, television, motion pictures, music, or any of those things that you subscribe to, or are you solely a bookworm?
I am solely a book person. I did have one of my books a long time ago optioned, but for the movies, but it never went anywhere, as they frequently don't. But and I would love to write a screenplay. My daughter is trained as an actress and writes screenplays. She lives in Los Angeles, and she writes screenplays and is always writing and starring in and producing her own little short movies and things like that. And I would love to write a screenplay with her, maybe partner someday. But I know it's a totally different genre and discipline, and the different rules apply. So I just haven't had time to learn those rules yet. But it does.
Well, you'll
sound
have a
like
good
it'd be fun.
teacher with her.
That's true. That's true.
So has the mystery genre been your friend all your life? Were you a reader as a child?
I did. Some of the first books I read were Nancy Drew mysteries and Vicki Barr, which I remember I was in elementary school, and they had the book fair, and I saw this book, Vicki Barr. She was an airline stewardess, and of course they don't even call them that anymore. But, and she had the same name I did, and there aren't many Vickies in the world. So I asked for that book at the book fair, and I got it for Christmas. And there were only 3 books in that series. I Googled it not too long ago, and I had all 3 of them. And it was Vicki's mysteries. She solved mysteries as an airline stewardess. But I did read that a lot as a child. But then as I got older, I liked romances. And my first 20 published books were historical romances.
You have written some books.
Wow. A few. So that's 35 total that I've published.
Oh, just only.
I wrote a few more that are. Those are the only ones that are published. Oh, please. I have friends who've written hundreds, so I'm a piker compared to them.
How long does the process take, or does it really vary by book that you're in? If you have 35 under your belt that are published, and I'm sure you've gone through revisions and so forth, I'm just curious, how long does that take someone to write?
Actually, writing, well, when I wrote full time, before I had to get a day job, it would take me about 9 months to write a 500-page historical romance. Now it takes me about 5 months to write a 300-page mystery, because I work full time too, in addition to that. So.
Well, if your fans are interested in getting your books or getting in contact with you, following you, do you blog? Do you tweet?
I have a Facebook page,
and
it's linked to my Twitter feed, so they're both on there. And I have a website, victoriathompson.com. It's really easy, and so they can send me fan letters, and I'll correspond with them.
Sure.
And she's a Pittsburgh girl, by the way.
From the Pittsburgh area?
Actually, no. I live over in central Pennsylvania. I'm a Pennsylvania girl. I live near.
I always thought you were Pittsburgh. I did. I don't know.
It's because I'm here all the time.
And it's probably why. Yeah.
She just knows the turnpike real well.
I do, like the back of my hand. Yeah. It's. I live near Gettysburg in the city. But my husband actually is from the Pittsburgh area, but not me.
Well, Victoria, thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you for
and
having
for
me.
sharing a little insight to what you're working on. And I enjoyed hearing a little bit about Frank Malloy. I'm going to have to pick
Oh,
up some of
yeah.
the books in the series.
Yep.
If you'll stay with us, we'll be back in just a moment.